as people come in, let me do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. So tomorrow we continue our Blueprint series with Christine, and they have been phenomenal. We follow that up on Friday. We have a power hour with Clifford Starks, who's a former UFC fighter and a big member of our community. And then our in real life stuff, we go to Chicago. Then we're in Greenwich, Connecticut for the polo match. Then we're at Running Man with Jesse Itzler, Fort Lauderdale, Austin, Texas, which I would say stay tuned for that because I think we've got something epic in the works. And then we're back to New York City. So those are our in real life events. For anyone who has not been on a Legend series, the format is we're going to do a 30-minute fireside chat with Ryan and I, and then we will open it up for Q&A. So if you've got a question for Ryan, you don't have to write it out. Just put in the chat that you've got a question for Ryan, and I will tee you up, and you can ask the one and only Ryan Leaf whatever you would like. So for anyone who does not know, Ryan Leaf is an absolute legend. So a Heisman finalist, a first-team All-American, a Washington State Hall of Famer. He won the Sammy Baugh Award back in the day. He is the lead analyst for USA Sports. He's a podcaster. He's a speaker. He's a CEO. He's a mental health advocate, and he is a Hall of Fame husband and father. And Lisa and I were blessed to spend several hours with the Leaf family at their home, taking pictures for the magazine. And I can tell you, Ryan is one good dude. So before we get into it with Ryan, Kathy has an intro from the one and only Max Partain, our Emmy Award-winning filmmaker. Hit it.
My third Olympics is when we won gold.
I'm smart enough to also surround myself with people who know a whole lot more than I do.
We're all one idea away from completely changing the trajectory of our life.
After a successful college football career, our next guest was one of the most sought-after quarterbacks entering the NFL. Please welcome Ryan Leaf.
When I got out of prison, I couldn't afford to go to treatment. And if the NFL didn't have grants available to me, I wouldn't have been able to get the help I needed. And I don't ever want somebody who really wants help and wants to change their life not be able to do it because they can't afford it.
Thank you, Max. I appreciate you putting that together for us. Ryan, what's up, my friend?
Hey, Scott.
Thanks for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. And congrats on the new lead analyst at USA. That's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you when we were meeting for the article. I was trying to figure out if we could put it in the article when it was coming out, but they wanted to wait till June until they'd gotten some other things set aside. But yeah, that's something that's a pretty big deal for us. My wife and I negotiated the deal, and it's kind of been a long time coming with what we put in motion 2 years ago by signing with CW to be the face of the Pac-12, and now to be their lead analyst. And I think USA has some really long arms in this business, the way they're going to go about it. And I also get to call basketball, which is something that I don't think I'm going to call Pac-12 basketball and A-10 basketball for USA as well. So it's going to be it was a big deal.
I would assume you were a great hoop. Were you a good basketball player in high school?
Yeah, and then I played in college too. My freshman year, I played baseball, basketball, and football, and so.
I didn't know that.
And basketball was always my favorite. So, and I've been kind of disillusioned with the product over the last 10 years. Yeah. And I know my son, who's probably going to be about 6'9", is going to probably play. And so I thought maybe if I started working and analyzing it, I could get reinvested in it.
Yeah.
And I went and did a couple games at Fordham, and I was immediately like transported back to that. And so I think it will be still hard for me to watch, but if I think I'm working in it and analyzing and breaking it down, I think it'll be easier for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there's no doubt MacGyver has got a future on the court. You should see this kid. He's like basically my size.
He just hit 5 foot this week. So
it's insane. It's crazy. All right, Ryan, take us back 97, 98. It's your junior year at Washington State. You are just absolutely ripping it up. You're setting all kinds of passing records. You took Washington State to the Rose Bowl. I think it was their first Rose Bowl in like 67 years. You almost beat the number one team in the country, which was Michigan. So you almost got a national championship. You're a Heisman finalist behind probably one of the greatest classes ever, Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, and Randy Moss. You're drafted number 2. Take us back to that time. Like, where were you from a mental standpoint, a physical standpoint, a spiritual standpoint?
Pretty much, exactly where I thought I deserved to and should be. Had worked incredibly hard my whole life to put myself in that position. Was incredibly lucky to have chosen to go to Washington State, which placed me with a coach that taught me how to play the position better than anybody. Great teammates that made me better. And then the opportunity to go, achieve my goal of playing professional football. And so, at the time I was exactly where I thought I should be. I thought I was the best football player in the world. I thought whether I was drafted first or second didn't matter. It was him and me, and we were going to battle each other for the next 20 years for AFC supremacy. And that was just the mindset. So like, there wasn't anything that I felt like imposter syndrome or anything like that. I felt exactly where I was rightfully supposed to be. And I was ready to get to work.
It's so interesting. I remember vividly back in that day, the controversy of like, who should be the number one pick in the draft. And I think, it was pretty unanimously split 50-50, between you and Peyton Manning. I'm curious, was there a rivalry, or were you guys friendly?
I think there was a rivalry just because, we were considered the top 2 quarterbacks and college football players in the country. So I think there was definitely a bit of that. You look back at some of the decisions the NCAA made at the time, like the BCS hadn't been developed yet. It would come the next year. Mm-hmm. But if you were like in a situation like that, if you're the NCAA, wouldn't you have pitted Michigan versus Nebraska, both undefeated teams, and then pitted Tennessee against us? I think that would have been an unbelievable opportunity, and then the Senior Bowl existed. The Senior Bowl wouldn't allow me to go as an underclassman. Imagine having both Peyton and I go to that and then play each other in the Senior Bowl. How much for marketing purposes? It seems silly now to think back on not doing and taking advantage of those things. Peyton and I met on a phone call when we were both sophomores. Our SIDs put us in touch with each other, and you can't forget that there was no cell phones. You had to be at home with a landline when it happens. And I remember picking up the headset the first time, and I could hear that Southern, Louisiana drawl of Peyton Manning. And listen, I'm a kid from Montana. I'm at Washington State. We are nobodies. We are hicks. We are like never supposed to get to that place. So it was kind of like, I remember covering up the receiver and talking to my roommates going, "It's Peyton fucking Manning," So that was pretty cool. And then we've been friendly since. We've been attached to each other. You know, probably for better for me, worse for him, over the 30 years since that moment. But it was a pretty cool thing to have when it started out on that phone call.
No doubt about it. So, did you think about coming back for your senior year?
No, not at all. Hindsight, definitely wish I would have. It would have taught me in many different things. Living in the spotlight, it would have taught me how to deal with adversity. We would have lost, I think, 16 of the 22 starters on our team. So it would have done a lot of things, but there also was no higher ceiling I could get to. Like I was going to be the first pick or the second pick, and really it didn't matter. We were going to be differentiated between like $250,000. It wasn't going to be some huge thing. There was no further place for me to go. And it also was incredibly prideful for me to say that I left a year early to go play professional football. I think that's an amazing thing to be able to say and do too. So, it never really crossed my mind. My mom tried to convince me to stay, but you're 21 years old. You're not listening to your mother at any point at that point.
And so you're the second pick in the draft. When did things start to get rocky, and what do you think in retrospect happened?
It was perfect. It was exactly how I dreamt it to be. We went out and I was named the starting quarterback. The team really accepted me. The defensive guys, Junior Seau, Rodney Harrison, they were on board. And then we went out and won our first 2 games. And no rookie had ever done that since John Elway in 1983. So Pepsi came in, Rolex, Cadillac, Nike, and now I had like every endorsement you can imagine. Peyton had started out throwing like 6 interceptions and losing the first 2 games. I mean, it was, in my mind, we were winning. That was it. And I woke up the Monday morning after the Tennessee game, and I just felt horrible. And we got into the training room, and they looked at a wound on my leg that was from a turf burn, and they didn't clean it out, good enough. And some of the nylon from the tights I was wearing had it was so hot in Nashville, and they kind of melted into my skin, and they got infected, and I had a staph infection. And so they put me in the hospital on Tuesday, and I would spend Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the hospital with IVs and antibiotics. And I remember Friday came around, they were going to let me out, but they wanted to stay. My fever hadn't broken, and they wanted me to stay one more night. So we stayed one more night. Coaches came over, brought the film, and I just begged and begged and begged and implored them to let me play against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday in Kansas City. And Kevin Gilbride and June Jones were the head coach and quarterback coach, and they didn't give me an answer. And it's funny when it comes to pro sports, like the guy that they name the starter, like unless the guy's, so wounded or legs falling off or something like that, they really don't want to replace and have a backup, because the way it speaks to the team is like, oh, we have to go with the guy that was not good enough to be in there initially. So I convinced them. Once again, my lovely mother called and implored me not to play. She was pretty smart, that one. And I did. I remember they shot me up with what I thought was pure adrenaline. And I went out and had an incredible warm up. And then just as we were walking off the field, like the skies just closed in, and then started this monsoon rainstorm. And we came out I completed my first pass, 1 for 1 for 4 yards, and that's the last pass I would complete. I went 1 for 15 for 4 yards. I fumbled it 3 times. And I think I threw 2 interceptions. Wasn't like the other team was any better. I think Rich Gannon only completed 4 passes in that game, but it was just horrible. It was the worst football game I ever played in my life. Completely humiliated, embarrassed. And listen, I had every excuse in the book available, right? Welcome to the NFL moment, in the hospital all week with a staph infection. Weather was horrible. I mean, it was what it was. Just say, it's never going to happen again. I'm going to work my tail off. They gave me another couple IVs after the game, and I got hit in the back side of the head by a cameraman. I unloaded on him. One of the beat reporters saw it, wrote about it. Like, no one was thinking about anything other than, bad game, bad performance. On the way into work, I read the newspaper article. That pissed me off even more. After the gaggle with the reporters, I asked the beat reporter to stick around, and I tried to do my best, Ryan, I'm so much more important than you, Leaf impression, and tell him that the locker room's a sacred place. You can't, mess with that. We're going to be working together for a while. Listen to me, you piece of shit. And he, as a good reporter, baited me pretty good with it. Said, Ryan, this is my job. I'll do whatever the hell I want to do. And I picked his ass up. I threw him in the chair. And a cameraman in the corner of the room whipped around and caught the rest, which is a viral thing. And it's one of the first viral videos that there is. It's a petulant child yelling at a grown man. And that was the end of my career. So I'd won 2 of the 3 games, and what would transpire as we were talking before the show, before doing this, I needed a sports psychologist. I needed to know how to deal with things in a healthy, positive way. And I absolutely became the most defensive individual you can imagine, thought everybody was out to get me. And then if I would have went out and thrown 4 touchdowns against New York the next week, no one would have cared, because they said, that guy's super talented. He's an asshole, but he's super talented. Instead, I threw 4 interceptions. A Make-A-Wish commercial that I'd done with some terminally ill kids went up on the big screen, and it got booed. Like, it was over. I absolutely fumbled it to no extent. And, I played for 5 years and bounced around to 3 other teams, but, no matter where you go, there you are. And if you're the problem and you haven't figured that out and figured out a way to change it, it's always going to be following you like an anchor. So I can pinpoint it to one moment, and it was how I dealt with failure on the highest level. That's the one moment.
What role did the money play in it? Because I think at the time you might have signed like the largest contract in history, and I can't imagine
it was the largest contract in as a rookie, and then
right.
Peyton broke that about a week later with about $250,000 more. So money changed just the way I thought of myself in terms of entitlement. I think it was money, power, and prestige. I had all 3 of those things. More money that, I didn't have to listen to my parents anymore. I mean, we didn't get hardly any bit of a scholarship check in college, and so they still helped me pay my rent while in college. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to afford it. So there was always still this leash that was there, that there was a responsibility to listen. Now it was like, I surrounded myself with yes men, who helped enable that behavior. And money really made me feel like I was better and more important than you. I don't know where I'd seen it. It wasn't how I was raised by my dad at all. It was what I'd seen, with what made you important, what made you special. In fact, it's the last thing I held on to in terms of coming truthful and honest to people later in life, that I had blown all my money, that I was broke. I still hung on to that idea. Like, people might think he's a piece of shit, but he's still rich, which makes him rich and famous, you know. And so that was a big part of that.
You know, one of the many things I admire about you is you've taken the power away from that label bust. How have you done that?
I think it's just, you know, I've just been open, transparent, vulnerable. You know, I think 3 words that you never associate with a professional athlete, man, football player, and where I grew up, you know, the cowboy culture of Montana, and then locker rooms my whole life. So I'd never actually seen another man actually ask for help. So if you haven't seen it, heard it, it's really hard to implement it yourself. And so and you have to experience it. You have to be able to do it and see that the repercussions don't exist. In fact, they are incredibly beneficial. And it makes you feel powerful to let everybody know your scars and secrets, and you not be bothered by them, but rather look in the mirror and see the guy with all the scars and everything that's going on and go, I like that guy. You know, that's, and that took a lot of soul searching, a lot of work. It took, you know, 4 or 5 years of clinical depression unchecked. And, you know, this isn't like something that flipped a switch overnight and things changed. My wife likes to say we built our house made of glass. And she doesn't like it all the time. I don't mind it at all, because that for me removes all the power from everything. Everybody knows my stuff, you know? So I'm like, somebody wants to call me a bust or a junkie or a felon or criminal or whatever. I'm like, yeah, everybody, we all know that. What else you got? You know, you want to start using the stuff that the last 12 years has had, that may be things that people don't know that much of, you know, and they're not as negative. So that, I don't know if that makes you any happier when you have to talk about positive things with me. That seems counterproductive in the space that you're trying to live in. So that's how I've kind of removed the power, and what other people think of me is not necessarily any of my business.
Yeah, it's amazing how you stay present and looking forward in a world that seems to want to consistently look in the rearview mirror. And that's just not you. But I also love the way you own. If anyone on this call, if you haven't gone to Brian's LinkedIn profile, it might be one of the most self-deprecating, funniest LinkedIn profiles I've ever seen. So you got to scroll past all of the accolades that he's gotten in the last 12 years to go back to his early days under his experience. But oh my God, I laugh every time I see that. Let's talk a little bit about December 3rd, 2014. You get released from prison. What was that? What was it, two and a half years? What was that experience like, and how did it change you?
Well, I mean, I could have been out a lot sooner. I just kept denying my parole. I was pretty masochistic at the time, and I was incredibly depressed. So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, when I walked out on that day, it was like I had started to do some things while I was in there that started affecting me mentally in a positive way. But, you know, when my, you know, mother and father were coming to pick up a 38-year-old man, taking him to their home as an adult child, pretty much, with no prospects, like no job, no money, nothing. You know, it was, in a lot of ways, it could have been incredibly hopeless. But like I said, some of the stuff that I was doing while I was in prison, you know, garnered some of that hope. But then the funny thing is, like, hope is such a tricky thing, because, you know, the next morning I woke up pretty grateful. I slept in a real bed for the first time in 3 years. And my hometown newspaper had a cartoon caricature of me in it with a little blurb that said, "Lock up your medicine cabinets, Ryan Leaf's out." And I just remember going, why did I forget? Like, how did I forget that I was this piece of shit? And this is what the rest of my life's this is what it's always gonna be like. And why do I want to live like that? I don't want to feel that way. So like muscle memory kicks in immediately. And it was like, I don't want to feel these feelings. I want to be numb. My grandfather had just had knee replacement surgery. I knew he had pills. I was in the car on the road before the thought could even materialize in my brain fully, on my way to steal his pills and get high and not feel this. And so luckily for me, the drive would have been like 30 miles. And I disassociated on the drive, and version of myself was sitting in the passenger seat just asking, "What are you doing? You know how this ends? Back in a prison cell or most likely dead." And what changed? What did you do differently in prison that had you feeling this way over the last 32 months, or really over the last 6 months? And so I flipped the Yui and I went to the homeless shelter. And now, you know, people in those environments are disenfranchised, right? They're never seen, they're never heard. They don't feel seen, they don't feel heard. And so I don't feel like I did anything really. I just sat down and I made eye contact with them and I listened. And when the day was up, I went back to my parents' house and I got to lay on a real bed. And those individuals that I was speaking to that day, they weren't going to get to do that. They were going to sleep on the streets. And it just kind of dawned on me, like, who has it better than you, Ryan? And I thought, nobody. Like, I was going to lay my head on a real bed. It gave you a different kind of perspective. Who gives a shit if someone writes a cartoon of you? And it wasn't like it wasn't true. It was incredibly mean-spirited, but it wasn't false. And so from that was kind of one of those moments too. Like, it could have gone completely the opposite direction, right? Just right back into the lion's mouth. And instead it ventured into a version of grateful perspective that's become a superpower of mine. Like, there is nothing that you can walk around and see me grumpy about in this life. I swear to God. My wife gets sick and tired of it. I swear. She's just, I get it. You're grateful. You know, we got shit to do here. Come on. You know, it makes me laugh. So that day, you know, those 2 days, the day I got out to what the next day looked like and to what the last 11 and a half years have been since then, have been rooted in that foundation of grateful perspective. Like, there's just not an instance where I'm not grateful for what and where I'm at.
Tell us a little bit about the work you do with the Menninger Clinic, and just your advocacy for mental health.
Yeah, it started, you know, I went down to treatment in Southern California. I reached out to a local community, sober community that was there in Santa Monica. And I tried to get a job as a driver and a manager at one of the houses. And that's where it started. It was a company called Transcend Recovery Community. They gave me my real first opportunity to be in a work in service, to have an occupation in service, and how great that felt. And that's really rooted in the foundation of what has transpired over the years to, you know, 3.5 years ago, when the Menninger Clinic approached me about becoming one of their ambassadors, where I could consult and really have an asset at the end of things when people reach out for help. And the CEO there, Armando Colombo, who's been incredibly an important piece in my recovery and in my life, to give me that asset to allow me to feel purposeful in that. And that's, you know, that stemmed to where we started our business, Anna and I, where we started a bit. Really, we just started it first off as kind of as something dealing with our taxes, but it's actually became a real business, one that we consult all over the country. And then with Anna's background in entertainment, we added a production arm to the company, and we produce all of our media rights stuff. So anytime you see me on any sort of broadcast or show or anything like that, we're part of the production aspect of that through our company, and Anna is the executive producer of that. So we just, like anything over the last 11 and a half years, it's been a matter of really kind of staying busy, like being a shark, never stop moving. But there's a time for me to stop moving. When I get parallel to the ground at night, there's a time when the kids go down where I can shut it off. Like I don't have to keep going. Like when we're on the bed and it's time for us to wind it down, I can do that and sleep well.
You just turned 50. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is you retired when you were 26. So you lived almost half of your life as a retired athlete. Now, so I'm involved with the Walter Camp Football Foundation. So I'm around a lot of ex-collegiate athletes that were all Americans. And I can tell you that most of them that I get to see that are of your vintage, they don't look like you. Ryan is in insane shape. Like he is just, I don't know if you're in better shape than when you're playing days, but you are in phenomenal shape. What do you do to maintain that? Because so many people, that played at such a high level, they don't have the discipline and consistency to do that.
It's ironic too. I'm here and there's 80 former NHL, NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball and some tennis stars that we're all kind of near or around the same age. And you're exactly right. But I was that way too. I mean, you look at me pre-prison, even, right after prison, I was about 325 pounds and about to stroke out from high blood pressure. Didn't have any kids. And I'm telling you right now, kids are a big part of that. I had kids late, so I'll be 65 when my daughter graduates high school. My wife is after me about having another one, which I would be 70 when she graduates high school. I don't know if I have a say in it either because it's an embryo and I think it's a done deal. So, it's just a matter of when she goes and gets it in vitroed. So the kids part, they keep me young, but I've seen how much joy they bring to me and how I want to be around as long as I can to be in their lives. And so to do that, I have to, try to I was a freak in nature when I was 21 years old. I could be 250 pounds and I could run fast and I could jump high and I could accelerate and I could explode. And though I am in much greater shape than I was when I went away to prison and even got out. Like if you asked me to do anything explosive, that's a different story. Like my muscles would just explode on me. So there is a difference in the terms of shape, but I'm 225 pounds. So I lost 100 pounds since walking out of prison. It's been about the food we put in our body. We hired a local chef in Connecticut there that comes once a week, and it's all paleo. It's all non-processed food. So not only is the great food going into me, but into my kids too. And they're eating stuff that I didn't start eating until I was 35, or 38, 40 years old. Kid loves Brussels sprouts, cauliflower mash, just stuff that I love that, both of them. And so I found a doctor that tests my blood every 6 months to check the inflammation in it. Like that's a huge part of it. We put a cold plunge in the house. We put a gym in the house, like all of these things that I probably should have done at 22 when I had all this money and I could have invested greatly in me. But the way my wife and I look at it is like, what a better investment. There isn't a better investment than into our health. So if we're going to spend the money, and we did our research, like we noticed how much money we were spending on groceries, eating out, Postmates, like the accumulation of all that after it was all said and done, what we're paying the chef, it's cheaper. Like it just is. And so, so those are the things that we're doing. I'm in one of our really good friends that my aunt and I made when we were in LA, living in LA, was a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. He's on the longevity stuff. Like, he's introduced me to some peptides that I take. I mean, it's just like, we just did my fifth, like you talked about, we just had my 50th birthday. I went in for my 50-year physical. Blood test came back. Doctor says blood of a 40-year-old. So like I'm doing the right things, and so I can feel good about it. You know, movement, the stuff I put in my body, also like the stress-free lifestyle of everything. Like I'm not stressed out.
Yep.
My life's pretty boring. Like, the kids can never stress me out, no matter how, dysfunctional it gets, maybe from time to time. It's just there's just nothing that, like, I don't have to worry about getting my next fix. I don't have to worry about what someone else is saying about me. I don't have to worry about a police officer coming to the house. It's just, when I was on parole and probation, like, trying to, all the webs you weave to try to, fool the probation officer. It's just, it's just a lot of freedom, and freedom comes with a lack of stress, which is a huge part of that.
Well, I couldn't be happier for you and for your family. In just getting to meet Anna and MacGyver and Bo. I mean, it's just, you guys are the cutest family ever, and just you can tell how much joy you all get from being.
I sent a couple pictures to my buddy Jay Glazer the other day, and one of them was the four of us on the steps
at least,
and he wrote back. He's like, "Dude, it's like the fucking pictures they give you in Target when you buy the frame." And I was like, I'm okay with that.
I love it. You ready for some questions?
You bet. Fire away.
All right. We're going to open this up for some Q&A. So we're going to Martin Foster.
Hey,
Martin,
thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot, Scott. Hey, Ryan, been following you for years, so just big fan of your content and just your resilience. I am a military veteran, so one of the stories that's really stuck with me was your cellmate was a combat veteran with both Iraq and Afghanistan, and there were some tough conversations that I've read about that you guys had. With that, how do you get the world to view you with a fresh set of eyes? Thanks for taking my question.
First, thank you, Martin, for your service. My dad was a two-tour Vietnam veteran, and you guys have sacrificed more than I'll ever have to in my life. So thank you for that. Yeah, he was he was my guardian angel, as it turns out. Guy that had made a mistake, pretty, giant mistake, but had made amends and wasn't resolute with the way the people looked at him and wanted to change that. And, he kept making points to me around the idea, like, you can't change anything that's happened at all. You can't change it. How anybody views you, all you can do is start over and change the ending. And that made sense. Like, it was simple. Like, the idea of it was simple. And so I am not really worried about what others do. If there's consequences to my actions, those are from my past. Like CBS won't hire me. They won't. And I've always wanted a chance to call NFL football games on TV. And, you're pretty limited because of the networks. You're either going to be NBC, which only has one game, so I'm not getting that one, or Fox. And Fox has always been an opportunity, but CBS has a load of those games too. And they just, because of my felony record, they're not going to hire me. And so there's consequences to that. And so I just don't let that get me down, because I'm just like, I made the choices. I made the mistakes. There's consequences that come with that. I like the guy I see in the mirror now. And if you don't, that sounds like a you problem now, and it's not a me one. And that's how I've gone about it. So it's a ton of practice, because I certainly wasn't that way when it first started out. I took things so personally when someone, like, I've made all these changes. I'm a different person. Why can't you see that? I can't control that. I just can control my attitude, my effort, and my behavior. And so And listen, that's what I'm trying to teach my 8-year-old right now. So essentially me just teaching myself the things that you need to teach a toddler and a young adolescent. And that's the way I've gone about that business.
All right, we're going to Dr. Dre.
Hey, so I'm meeting with my head coach tomorrow to talk about programming for this upcoming season. What's the number one thing that you think high school football players need to be working on?
Winning and losing isn't important at that level. It just isn't at any level until it starts costing you jobs and it's a money thing. Like, just enjoy it. Enjoy this opportunity. Because the chance of you playing Division I football or going to the NFL is a 1% out of 1% type of chance. So enjoy the moment. Have fun while you're doing it, and just get better every time you go out and do something. And that's, again, something I'm trying to teach my 8-year-old. He's playing flag football right now. For 2 years, they didn't lose a game, just dominated everybody. And then I put him in a new league up in Danbury, and they lost their first 3 games, got blown out, and didn't score a point in one of them. And he came off that third game crying. And we've been having that conversation. And over the last 2 weeks, he's just gone out. They've lost both the games, or they lost one of them, but he may have played his best football game of his life. Like, he was making every tackle, he was making every catch, trying his hardest. There was a pick 6 that went the other way where he was in the end zone where the ball was poorly thrown towards him, and he stopped and just watched the guy run all the way down the field. And while we were in the car, the first thing I showed him was the DK Metcalf chase down of Budda Baker in that Seattle Seahawks Arizona game. And I was away last week, and my wife videotaped exact same play happen, interception, and my little 8-year-old chased his ass down and got the flag before the kid got to the end zone. And I love to see him like learning these things. I mean, my wife told me he went to football camp last night and he didn't get enough touches in the scrimmage at the end of it. He's like, I don't like this. These drills suck, And he just, he's an 8-year-old. And so luckily for me, I'm about as mature as an 8-year-old. So we're kind of working out it together at this point. So that's the best advice I can give anybody who's not playing for money or for their jobs are reflected on wins and losses. Winning and losing has no semblance of anything that you should be having in your algorithm right now.
The downside is that our program has put 6 D1 players into D1 in the last 4 years at big schools. So three of our last six were national champions.
You can't control anything that's happened before you or after you. You just do what you do. Also, I would recommend playing every sport possible too. Like, I wouldn't be focused on one sport. You'll burn out. It's going to be miserable. That's the deal with my kid too. He's got to play 3 sports at a time, whatever those are. Just got to be in 3 sports at one time. And right now it's football, baseball, and basketball right now. But he's trying to convince me he wants the other 2 to be swimming and golf. So we'll see.
Ryan's wife also was a legit D1 volleyball player at Georgetown. So these kids have got some good genes. Bruce, you're up.
Ryan, thank you so much. Love your story, and the article in Outlier magazine too was great. So I've got multiple questions, but I'm going to only ask one because that's really what we need to do with all these people on the call. How have you maintained your sobriety for so long? What would you say has been the key to that?
Surrender and acceptance. Surrender that I can't do this on my own, and acceptance of help from others. Early on, it was really about God, that group of drunks that carried me. And I found some good meetings in Connecticut that I go to that keep it aligned. But the relationships I built and the mentors that came about, my board of directors, I call them, there's 5 of them that have serious sobriety and who have mentored me through many different things. And I like to tell people, like, I'm the chairman of that board, but ultimately, if they came to me with, 4-1 vote, I talk about this all the time when I propose to whether I should propose to my wife. The 5 guys came back 4-1 in favor that I should. My wife gives that one guy so much shit. But listen, he was just thinking of my best interests and trying to make sure, because it was pretty quick, you're not supposed to rush into those things in early recovery. And, I carry my coin as my ball mark, and I play a ton of golf. A lot of people get that yearly coin and it goes into a shoebox or into a drawer somewhere. It's in my pocket, and I see it almost on a daily basis out on the golf course, and the relationships. Then somebody will walk by it and come back and say, I'm a friend of Bill's too. And years of recovery. And there's another relationship that started from that. I miss the feeling of not feeling anything. I love going to movies, and I used to go get high and go to movies all the time when I was using. And I remember thinking, I'm not gonna be able to go see movies anymore. It's been ruined for me. But like anything, you just have to start doing it. And there's an unbelievable movie theater just down the road, about 12 minutes from my house, big comfy chairs. And I signed up for like the A-list thing where I can see like 16 movies a month for like $23, and I'll go by myself.
Pretty good deal.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just you become a child again. You reinvent, and the innocence that once existed before, you get to relive again. I always think that I'm the luckiest guy in the world that I got sent to prison and that I had to go through drug addiction, because I have got to start over and got to relive like the innocent parts of it. And then when you have kids that's late in life, it's almost like doing it again. I get to see the innocence through their eyes. I mean, I'm incredibly lucky. And so, and a big reason why is because of that sobriety and the maintaining of it.
We're going to go to my favorite detective in the UK, Lydia.
Hi, Ryan. First of all, I'm alien to NFL. As you can tell, I am from the UK. However, I recently watched the interview that you had on finding mastery.
Yep.
And there was something you said on there, which was remove the power of shame. And I've done that recently with my childhood trauma. So I really, really connected with that. But I just wondered, what was the first thing that you needed to accept about yourself to even begin your journey?
That I was like everybody else. I wasn't any different. That I was this flawed human being, just trying to be better every day. And once there came to that acceptance of like, you're not better than me. I'm not worse than you. I had a bad few years. Like, life is the sum of all its parts, not this part. And so those are the things that shifted and changed. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it was my wife and I went and lived in the UK for 6 weeks and worked for Sky Sports and took our son there, maybe it was my time in Great Britain. I got COVID though, so I don't know if it was the best time. Yeah, I think there's just an acceptance there of like, I'm just like everybody else. Like, my story's not more important or less important. Or am I more important or less important if I'm famous, rich, or, criminal, felon, junkie? Doesn't matter. We're all these flawed human beings trying to be better. So that was, and then Brene Brown has been huge in terms of in the arena stuff around shame and guilt, understanding like I did a bad thing, I made a bad choice, not a bad person, and ironically, that's really hard to get people out of. You get beat over the head enough from people saying it's your fault, you're a bad person. You start to believe it. Just like when they told me how great I was, I started to believe it. Right. And then
absolutely,
it's just the 180 degrees opposite of it. So that was really the instigator and getting me to where that's at.
Well, thank you for being so vulnerable today. I think we're all in a little bit more in awe of everything.
Thank you, Lydia. Appreciate that.
Kate McKinnon, you're up.
Yes. Thanks, Scott. Hi, Ryan. Your story is it's so inspirational, and it's something that so many people can take so much from. So I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing with us. I have a more of a fun question, a little lighter, but if you could have dinner with any 3 people, who would you invite?
I'd probably my brother, my dad, and my other brother.
Love that.
You know, I just, you know, they're the only Leafs that can relate to me and know everything that's, you know, and probably if I could kick one of the brothers out and bring my grandpa, who was like, I didn't find out things about my grandfather until his funeral, and my dad wrote the obituary. Like, my dad was on the aircraft carrier in the Sea of Japan when Japan surrendered, and I was like,
wow,
98 years of his life. How did I not know this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the shame and like around military and stuff before it became this propaganda machine over the last, you know, 3 decades or so. My dad, you know, came home, never talked about it either. He got spit on when he came home from Vietnam and stuff like that. And so he finally put veteran on his license plate the other day. You know, and so I would love to have a dinner with those guys and actually get the conversation that they've never had with me. That's I think why I'd want to have that dinner. Like, it would be this hypothetical thing of like, if you come into this dinner, you have to tell me everything. You know, I remember my dad started telling me stories about when he was in, you know, Vietnam, and like the size of the rats that he'd wake up to that were on his chest, you know, and out in the jungle when they wake up. And I'm just like, you know, like the things that I thought my life was tough, you know, I thought I sacrificed so much. So, you know, if you were looking for the more, you know, nuanced one, I think President John F. Kennedy, I think, would be at that dinner, just for the secrets. I just want to know all of the shit from the history and stuff. Tony Robbins, because I got offered an opportunity to go to spend a weekend on an island with Tony Robbins when I was 22 years old, because a teammate of mine was friendly with a friend of his, and I got the invitation. And I think my response at the time was, fuck Tony Robbins, was my answer to that one. So I would love to have that dinner and be like, you know, and if anybody of you know Tony Robbins, I'm so up for that weekend alone with him now, if that's available.
Rene Marino does.
We will work on that. I know a bunch of
got that one.
And then probably President Obama. I think just being the first Black president, I've really kind of looked up to him my adult life, when I was kind of getting things straight in my life and stuff like that. And so that would probably be the other 3.
Thank you so much.
That's a good list. Jared, you're up.
Hey, Ryan, I'm Jared. I'm really grateful for your time today. Much appreciate it. I am stoked to see you calling games in the booth in the Pac-12 this upcoming season. So 2 quick questions for you. What excites you most about being back in the booth to call games? And what lessons have you learned that are going to help you in those situations when you have to be critical of young men who aren't living up to expectations on the field?
Well, it's, you know, not everybody can be good at this. You've seen some incredibly great players struggle with it immensely. But you also see guys that are willing to work at it. Like, you know, Tom Brady wasn't great his first year, but I can tell you it was exactly the way he was as a quarterback. He went back to the lab and went to work. And I thought last year he was much better at it. You know, I've been essentially doing this for 10 years. Being able to say something in a 15 to 20 second span in layman's terms to express what just happened to grandma and grandpa who are sitting at home on their couch, I think it's a skill that's not easily attained. And so I don't have a problem being critical of young men. I just don't do it out of spite. Like, you know, I can say that was a poor choice. There hasn't been an instance where I've attacked somebody personally in any way, shape, or like, you know, I always hated that. Like, the difference of me calling football is I liken it to when I grew up with my dad, just sitting on the couch. My dad was always kind of the play-by-play guy. He would kind of tell the situations. 4th down, Ryan, it's here. We're at the 25-yard line. And when the play was over, I'd tell Dad what happened. And when I start working with new broadcasters, I tell them that story. Like, this is how I call games. Like, I'm sitting on the couch with my dad, and it's incredibly freeing and relaxing. And I never feel like I'm searching for words. I feel like there's so many, especially at the top, Kirk Herbstreit from one of them. I feel like he's got like a vocabulary list, like taped up next to the monitor he's watching the game on, and he's got to get all these vocabulary words in. And I'm just like, it's just not the same. And I really enjoy it. And it turns out I ended up being really good at it, which is crazy because I don't think I was a very articulate person. You look at interviews I did while I was playing, or certainly leading up to prison, I was not incredibly articulate. I think being quiet for a long time in prison, reading a bunch, contemplative conversations with my roommate about real life and real things, I think of. And then the 10,000 hours theory, right? I've spoken around this country over the last 10 years a lot, and you put me in front of a microphone now, I feel pretty at ease, and I can go to work.
We're going to try to sneak a couple more questions in. Alex, we're going to go to you, and then Nummy, we're going to go to you.
Ryan, this has been super awesome. Thank you being for so vulnerable. I'm a huge football fan. I'm a Commanders fan, so go Redskins, now Commanders. I feel like there's so much more like emphasis on players, like almost like being just toxic, like the Brandon Ayuk's and Antonio Browns and all these, like there's so many. And then like the NFL perpetuates it by picking them up. If you're good for a little while, it's all about talent. I'm curious about, my question as your identity, like your identity was a football player, like your whole life. And I'm sure like you with resilience, you had to like let go of a lot of stuff. So what did you have to like let go in that identity? And also like, what was like some of your biggest, joy moments of joy, playing football? Like,
yeah, that's the biggest thing, the transition, right? You've been something your entire life, and all of a sudden your identity is not that anymore. Imagine too, that the identity is a failed version of that to everybody. Like, you've sacrificed everything, you've been this your entire life, and now you're a failed version of that to the masses as an identity. So, and I can tell you right now, I know guys that played 20 years and won a couple Super Bowls, and they don't feel like they did enough too. Like, there's a real grieving process that has to be initiated, and every NFL player should seek some sort of professional help and therapy when it's all said and done. You cannot walk through that alone. You can't expect a spouse who's only known you that way. All of a sudden you're at home all the time a lot of them think that they have all this money and that will allow the change and the transition to be eased. And it doesn't. In fact, it exacerbates it quite significantly. So, again, I rushed into things. I transitioned poorly. I became a drug addict. I went to prison. Like, I got force fed. Either you fix it or you die on the vine here. And so, incredibly grateful for that for me. And a lot of individuals, they don't. They just kind of lie in the weeds of not knowing what to do, how to go about it, and where to help find positive change. And so that's what my work with the Menninger Clinic has really been about. We work with a ton of former players through that process. Anytime I'm down there quarterly, there will be anywhere from 8 to 12 new former NFL players that are there because of their association with our union in the Menninger Clinic. So that's where I get to do that part of it. I can remember some joyous things from football, but it's like none of that stuff's important. There's always somebody new that comes along, and records are meant to be broken. And, I don't necessarily, my son's just starting to realize, collecting football cards and stuff like that. And he thinks his dad's the best quarterback to ever play. But
I asked him that question. I said, "Who's your favorite football player?" He's like, "Ryan Leaf, my dad, of course."
Yeah. And so we had a talk the other night in bed about, hey, I love that you think that I'm the greatest. And but my professional career was not very good. But like in terms of, so if you start to hear that in the next few years, you know, it's important to know that it's rooted in truth. Like they're not trying to be mean, you know, and it's okay that you just love your dad. You don't have to, just because he was a good football player once doesn't make him any more special than being the guy that you knew before you even really knew about football or anything like that. And so we had a good talk about that. But sure enough, we were pulling cards the other day, and he pulled a Peyton Manning, and I'm like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "Peyton Manning. He's the second best quarterback ever." And I go, "Who's the best?" And he's like, "You." And I said, "Oh," I go, "Oh," and he's like, "Tom's," and he goes, "Tom's third." And I thought that was funny. Kids and their dads, man. I love it.
All right, we're going to wrap up with Nummy. Sorry, everybody else who we didn't get your questions, but we had a long line for this one.
Thank you. Ryan, I admire your vulnerability. I believe that it's a superpower when you make it part of your narrative. And I love what you said about the glass house. I can really relate to that. I have a question. Can you pinpoint the moment when you started to trust yourself again? Like what that looked like? I'm curious how you rebuilt that inner compass when nobody could hand it to you. It all had to come from within.
I think there's a lot of those moments, but during the pandemic, we had some stuff go down with me and my family. I was taking some time. I was living in Beverly Hills. I went over to a friend of mine who plays golf. I was in his restroom, opened up his medicine cabinet, and there were pills in there. And I took them. I put them in my pocket. And I was driving home, loving the idea that I didn't have to feel all what this isolation, the pandemic, the isolation from my family and the guy called me and he's like, "Hey man, you don't have to do that. You can just ask me if you want them." And I was floored, that he realized it and that he was like calling me out on it, but also like it was weird because he was kind of looking out for me and then he was just like, "But no, you can have them. You can get as high as you want, do whatever you want." And I don't know what it was, but it was in that moment. It was just like this. I flipped the Yui. I went back to his house. I gave him back to him and I told him, "Thank you." And the only person who knows that story, by the way, is my wife. So this is now all these people on here. Like I have never made it public. That was a great question because I think that was no one, like I could have just kept going home and I was alone. I was isolated. It was during a time. It's just, and that was in 2020. I want to say it was like the spring of 21. And for the last 5 years, I feel like I've really kind of trusted myself to know that when I'm in situations that I don't feel comfortable with myself or the surroundings, or I've been open to talk about it. And, you know, I've got such a great partner. She's so open to like, we went to a comedy show the other night and she was like, I kept moving our seats back further and further and further away from the stage. And she's like, I get it. Just easier access for us to leave when we need it. Like, we'll just get out of here before anybody. And she's like, she just gets it. And I trust myself. So I think that was probably a moment, you know, that because of the 5 years leading up to that moment, I think things were going well, but like life throws you a wrench. The pandemic did that. The conflict within my relationship did that. And like, you know, the things I'm trying to teach my kid about, you can't control any of that stuff. You can just control your part in it. That was a perfect example of that. So.
Thank you for sharing it with us.
Ryan, this has been unbelievable. I so appreciate you doing this. And it really, really has been unbelievably impactful. So I thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share my story on your platform. It was just kind of a cool deal, you know, to incorporate my family. And you sent a couple of those covers of the magazine. I got them framed. I'm going to put them in the new edition there with the, I don't put a lot of my stuff up anywhere. I try to make it more family oriented, but that was kind of a neat deal. And the family got a kick out of it, and they felt important too. And that was
oh my God, they're so much fun. Tell Ann I said hi, and MacGyver and Bo. Hit them straight today. Do not let Hetherington beat you.
I won't.
So my money's on you. All right, my friend. We'll I'm sure I'll see you sometime soon.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Ryan.
Very much.
Take care.